Welcome to the Gin Weekly Update for Friday, August 24th, 2018. I'm Joel Yaste. You know, as summer starts to wind down in the Northern Hemisphere, we're reminded of vacations that we might have taken, backyard barbecues with friends, and of course, events like Global Dream Weekend, where we were all together as a family in Chicago. And it reminds you as school starts that being together, being in someplace warm where the vibrations are high is really a high priority. Dr. Tom has more information about that, and let's hear from Dr. Tom.
Hello, I'm Dr. Tom, and I'd like to welcome you to this Friday's update, and I want to cover two topics with you today. Number one is the topic of balance. Balance in your life, balance between work, between family, between your personal away time, when your relaxation time, whatever it is that you do, as maybe it's a hobby, whatever it is that you do for you. Balance, the first topic. And the second one is the concept of the mastermind. Well, as you know, we talk about being in balance in Gin. You must bring balance to your life. Well, the reality is that sometimes you must go out of balance. Sometimes there's something that happens at work where it requires more of your attention. As long as you just keep that to a period of time, there's a beginning and you know when that's going to end. It's okay to go out of balance. Sometimes there's a situation, maybe a crisis, maybe a happy thing that's happening inside your family where it requires more of your time and focus and energy and attention in that short period of time, knowing that when you get to this date, that will be resolved. We'll have resolution to it. There'll be a solution that will have taken place. And so understanding that at different times in your life, you may go out what we refer to as out of balance, meaning that you're spending more time and energy and effort and thought process and waking hours, and you know the drill. You've been there. You do this. It's called life. The key is to always recognize when it's happening and know for sure that you're going to move back into that balance. Well, for about the last year and a half or so, maybe it's 2 years now, we've been a little bit out of balance, Dr. Ted and I and Blaine, in that we've had to reassess virtually everything inside the world of Gin, and combining that with the rest of our lives. We all have other things that we do as well, and so and I say that from a time commitment standpoint, from a balance standpoint. When it takes so much time and energy to drill down to find out why things are done a certain way, because the tendency with humanity is to just keep doing things the way you've always done them. Well, that's not the way the world works, and particularly not in this time and era of the development of the world. Things happen very quickly, and you must reinvent yourself, and you must make some changes, and you must do things differently than you did 20 years ago or 10 years ago, or quite frankly, even 5 years ago, because technology and the ability to communicate, all of those things change. And this is an information company. This is a communication company. It's a technology company in the way in which we deliver this very message. Wouldn't have been possible 20 years ago. Wouldn't have been possible 10 years ago to do what we can now do for each of you inside this club. So you have to always be on the lookout for what's new, what's coming. Not that you have to throw everything that worked away. It's just a matter of bringing balance into your life and bringing balance into your work life and bringing balance into your family life. Well, as you're watching this, we're returning from the second aspect of what I mentioned, the mastermind concept. And that concept is about where we've been for the last week, and that is at a remote fishing camp in the glorious country of Canada. It's something that we've done, that Dr. Ted and I have done since we were small kids, and our grandfather owned a fishing camp in Ontario, and so we learned of Canada and the wilderness and the smell of the pine trees and the beauty of nature up there a long time ago. And now we have spent we've gone more than 52 times, because sometimes we go 2 or 3 times a year, and we have spent over a year of our lives on some small lake in some small boat fishing. You see, it's so much more than fishing. It's that communication with nature, and it's these fly-ins that we do. It's basically you get on a float plane, they land you on the water, they drop you off on a Friday or a Saturday, they come back on Wednesday to make sure you're still alive and bring you more minnows, and then they come back on the following Friday or Saturday in order to pick you up and take you out. And so there is no communication. There are no cell phones. There's no internet. I know that's difficult for some of you. It's hard to put that phone down. Well, this is the part of why we do that. It's called the balance. In order to just completely unplug and completely relax. It actually takes a couple of days. You don't just get off the plane and say, oh, I'm totally relaxed. It takes a while to unwind and to stop thinking about all the things that you had to do before you left in order for life to continue, so that when you come home, there's not a crisis waiting on you. And so we've been doing that fishing, as I said, for years and years and years and years, decades actually. And we actually were the first people to take Kevin back into the world of fishing when we took him to Canada probably 20 years ago now. And to watch Kevin, and we had built a relationship with him because we'd done some infomercials with Kevin, and the relationship that my father and Kevin had was one of those very special relationships, both ways. And Dr. Ted and I are honored to have been a part of that beginning of that relationship. And then we developed our own relationships as time went on, and we all grew, and it was like a family unit. And Kevin, you've heard him often refer to us as like his family, because we had a special bond. And in that relationship and in that bond, we all grew. And here's the point of this story. It's not just about fishing. You see, when you go fishing in these places, you don't see another soul. You only see the people you take with you. So be careful who you take with you, because you're going to spend a week with them. And Kevin was one of those people. Blaine's been on one of these trips years ago. And understand that when you go on these trips, you begin to build that relationship concept that we're talking about in Jen. And so we've built that relationship over the years. And as happens in life, sometimes you talk to people more frequently, and then sometimes you separate for a period of time, or you don't see them. You check in by phone a few times a year. And that had happened with us, with Kevin. And finally, we decided it was time to get back and do another fishing trip. And so we called him. He was living in Europe at the time, and he said, absolutely, let's do it. I'll fly home, we'll come together, we'll get the jet, we'll all go up to Canada, we'll have a fishing trip. And we said, well, there are some things we'd like to talk to you about from a business perspective. And he said, great, it'll be a perfect time to do it. Well, we thought, Dr. Ted and I had this conversation during the week, we thought we'd have those conversations regularly during that week. Well, that's not the way it happened. This is how we learned more and more and more about the true concept of the mastermind. It's something that happens in a social setting, and it's something that happens when you're relaxing, and it's something when you just let down and again, put aside all of that external chatter. And so day after day after day, Ted and I would look at each other, and I said, did you, because we trade off in different boats, and I said, did you talk? No. Did you have any conversation? No. And so the week went on and week went on. And it wasn't until we were actually on the jet, after 7 days, we were on the jet flying home, where the quote business conversation, the concept of where we had been, what we were doing in our business, and what Kevin was currently doing. He had at this point just started Jen. And we had a conversation. It was the first time we'd talked about Jen. He'd sent us a letter and had a phone call about it, but we really hadn't had a conversation about it. And we did on that jet ride on the way home. And you've heard Dr. Ted tell the story about getting happy. And Kevin said, well, I'm doing something, and we actually have our next event in the Bahamas, and he invited Ted to come down. So Ted thought he was going as a guest, and little did he know he'd end up on stage. And well, as they say, the rest is history. You see, from that single conversation, and flying from Red Lake to Chicago, it's less than 2 hours. So in less than a 2-hour period of time, and the whole time wasn't about this, in less than an hour's conversation, thousands of lives have been impacted. Thousands of lives have been changed. Thousands of lives and relationships and families have raised their frequency and vibration, and have a better chance at health, and have a better chance at happiness, and a better chance of being happy right now in this moment as a result of a single conversation, as a result of a mastermind. You see, the mastermind is something that we will, as you move through the levels of Jen, you'll learn more and more about. And in level 7, we have some specific exercises and drills on this concept, because it's much more than just getting together with a group of like-minded people. There are different kinds of masterminds. That's one kind. There are others. And there are other ways in which you can benefit from that masterminding, or that how can I help you, and how can you help me, and how can we all benefit, and how can we all win? And that's exactly what's happened. You see, from that From that single jet ride began a conversation where Dr. Ted and Jana went to the Bahamas, and then we got involved in a number of levels. And who could have possibly predicted years ago the ups and downs and the twists and turns that would have been involved inside this company and inside our involvement in this company? No one. Yet, through all of those twists and turns, good has come and growth has come. And as I've said, thousands of lives, tens of thousands of lives have been impacted by the conversation that happens when you get yourself in two things, into two areas. One, we were getting back into balance by going into the wilderness and relaxing and fishing and laughing and having fun and telling stories. And I mean, you laugh so hard that you finally tell people to stop. Your stomach muscles hurt because you've been laughing so hard so long. It's a glorious time. Just that bonding of people and the great friendships and relationships that happen. And then the masterminding of putting together all that information in a social setting and then finally drilling down and saying, this might work, this might work. We talked about several different things. And out of that came this one particular thing that has been glorious. It has been a wonderful experience for my family and for you. And that all happened because we paid attention. We paid attention to a need. We paid attention to a way in which we could use our skills to assist a club. And there have been lots of others. There are lots of people who have helped the Global Information Network grow, each to a different level, each in a different way. And some things you like and some things you wonder about. That's okay, it's life. That's the beauty of this club, is that there are so many opportunities. There are thousands of hours of video in all different topics, from relationships to business to real estate to health, that you can learn from as a result of being inside the Global Information Network. The club gets it. And we are now moving back into balance because we now have a greater grasp of everything that's happening inside this club. It's why there are so many things that you're now beginning to see. And the feeling that happened in Chicago, that feeling of family and that feeling of community and that feeling of things coming back together was real. It was real because it was you. It was you understanding that feeling that the pace was set on Wednesday and Thursday as people went through trainings to increase their frequency and vibration. And that pace was set on Friday night when we began the general session. And that pace was set as we became together through some commands and listening to stories and listening to how people had won and how people were celebrating the wins. And it began by talking about the different levels and different concepts that you learned inside those levels, and light bulbs began to go off and think, you're right. I did learn that and I've utilized that and my life is so much better in so many ways, all as a result of the Success Mastery course. It is an incredible learning tool. Spend time studying it. Regardless of the level that you are currently at, go back and listen to previous levels. If you're just at level 1, just meaning you're just getting started, go back and listen again. Because as you go through those levels and as you review them in a new unit of time, two things are different. The environment, the world is different, and you are different. Begin to understand balance. Spend some time studying. If you have a goal or a dream or a desire, in order to get there, you're going to have to take some action steps. You're going to have to do something. You're going to need to apply some of the principles of the Success Mastery course. And when you do that, you win. And as you begin to develop those wins, those small incremental wins, as you begin to grow, as you begin to become a new person, as you begin to identify where the weak links are in your chain of life, as you begin to identify areas where you can focus and spend more time and put some effort into and come from your heart and be sincere about it, as you begin to realize who you are, you grow, and there's another level for you, and there's more growth, and there's more growth ahead. And that, my friends, excites me. Pay attention to where you are in this moment, in this unit of time, in this microsecond, and make some decisions to move forward, to improve your life, to better yourself in some way. You'll love yourself for it. Your family will love you for it. Your friends will love you for it. Your coworkers will love you for it. It's a total win. I hope you have a spectacular week. Back to you, Joel.
Thank you, Dr. Tom. Well, that's the weekly update for Friday, August 24th, 2018. I'm Joel Yaste. We'll see you again next time.